Hello, and welcome to the 5-day local lead generation challenge. So this challenge is designed for service-based businesses or local businesses who want to generate leads. Over the course of the next 5 days, we are going to cover so much content. So I've sent all of you an email. If you haven't already gotten that, go ahead and check your email. That is going to have 2 links to different documents that you can use to follow along in this challenge. So I've also posted those links in the description if you guys just want to hop on over there and download those. So it'll automatically download to your computer and you will be able to follow along with me. So day 1 is going to be a little bit different. We are going to cover some of the foundational work that you need to get in place before you launch these campaigns. So day 1, we are going to cover different types of advertising and how to know what is the best place to start, or how to really select what you're going to focus on for your business. We'll cover budgeting. We will cover some of the back-end setup that you'll want to do, as well as the 3 ad levels that I teach to my students and that I also use in our agency for the done-for-you work that we do for our clients. We'll also cover setting goals and different KPIs that you want to establish before running these campaigns. On day 2, we're going to cover creating offers and targeting, as well as buyer personas and how to really understand if you're reaching the right people. Day 3, we're going to cover copy and creative, how to write that copy that's really going to compel someone to take the next step, and which creative is going to capture their attention. Day 4 is all about campaign structure and setup, making sure you're actually setting things up correctly inside of Facebook Ads Manager. In day 5, we're going to cover automation and follow-up, and I've also got a very special announcement. So if you guys haven't heard already, on day 5, I'm giving away a prize worth $5,000, and this is really going to be super exciting. I can't wait to share the details, but in order to be eligible for that, you do need to make sure that you are there on day 5. Okay, so I also just got a text message for someone. I need to turn off my notifications, but if for some reason you're on mobile and you can't get this document, just get it from this page. Essentially, you're going to want to download that to your computer or print it out or something like that. I actually have a lot of people that will print these out to keep them on hand. So don't necessarily worry about it. I'm going to be covering a lot of stuff with you, but this can be your guide to doing the homework later. The difference between a live stream series and a challenge is really taking action. And I want to make sure that you are not just listening to me speak, that you're actually taking action over the course of the next 5 days. So again, if you can't get that right now, it's not really a big deal. You're going to want to listen first, take notes if you like, but go ahead and use that as your guide whenever you actually are putting these things into place. Okay, so the first thing we're going to cover is different types of advertising and how to know if they are the right fit for your business. So this is the first thing that I usually discuss with people. And essentially, it's a big problem that I see. People are not planning. They are really doing impulse buying or impulse advertising. And when you do that, you really eliminate the opportunity to have everything work as a cohesive strategy, and you're probably not spending the correct amount, and you probably don't have the right goals or KPIs in place. So obviously this challenge is really focusing on Facebook and Instagram ads, but how do you know if that's a good fit for your business, and should you be doing other things? So quickly we'll cover traditional advertising. We have things like TV, radio, direct mail. Those types of advertising can work, but to be honest, there is a pretty high barrier of entry in terms of cost. So unless you're spending a significant amount on advertising, you're probably not even going to be able to do some of these different marketing tactics. Direct mail is something that you can do for a little bit lower cost if you're targeting a lower area. However, like we'll talk about as we go through, this is all about frequency and consistency. You can never just send out one campaign and expect everyone to respond. People need to be exposed to you several different times to really have a good grasp on who you are, if they trust you, what you do, and if you can help them. Live events is a more traditional type of advertising, which we are going to cover, but this is an in-person thing. We actually use digital advertising to drive registrations and signups to these types of events. So I really love these, and we'll definitely cover them more as the week goes on. Really quick, if you don't understand what your marketing budget should be for your business, you're going to have a really hard time determining, number one, what you can afford. Number two, how to delegate your budget to these different types of advertising. So there's kind of a wide range that you can use to say, okay, how much are we actually going to spend on advertising this year? Essentially, it should be anywhere from 5 to 12% of your revenue spent on marketing. How do you know whether you're closer to the 5% or 12%? Well, that's going to depend on you. So I would say look at your margins. But newer businesses or businesses that are really trying to grow, you should be on the higher end. You might say, well, if we are still newer, maybe our revenue isn't where we want it to be, so why should we spend more? Well, that's the entire point. Great advertising should help you grow. It's not an expense, it's an investment. So you need to be willing to spend more in order to hit those goals. This is the point of paid advertising. If you just wanted to grow organically, you can get there, but it's going to take you a lot longer. And for a lot of businesses, they cap out at a certain amount. So I talked to a lot of businesses who have gotten to 7 figures or higher strictly with word of mouth marketing. And that's awesome. My business was able to grow really, really quickly and well with organic, but I run ads. I want to get to a different level. I want to invest in my business to grow. So make sure that you have that mindset, because this is not an expense if done right. It's an investment to help your business get to the next level of revenue. Okay, so go ahead and figure out what is our marketing budget for the year, whether that's the rest of 2019 or 2020. I'll go ahead and put these action steps in the notes, and I'm also going to have a recap page that will have the video replay, and it'll also tell you what your homework is for each day. But for now, just listen, try and take notes, take it in, and you guys can deal with that more in depth in the time that hopefully you've blocked out this week for this challenge. So we'll go over to a few more types of advertising, okay? Within digital, social media advertising, that could be Facebook, Instagram, it could be Pinterest ads, and it could be, there are sponsored Twitter posts and things like that. That's nothing that I really care about, to be perfectly honest. So we're not going to cover that. You could also do display ads. So I'm not the biggest fan of display, but I do think that it can work well for certain types of businesses. I just don't think this should be your only investment or your only strategy. Again, when you are marketing, you want people to be exposed to you multiple times in as short amount of time as possible. The best way to do that is to be seen in multiple places. So while I understand that there are businesses that can only afford to be in one place at a time, that's fine. But you should not ever rely on one marketing platform to generate all your results. That's very short-term thinking. And what happens if your account gets banned? Even for 2 weeks, a lot of times those things can easily be fixed. But if you're not generating any leads or any revenue off your marketing for, several weeks or a month, is that going to be a big hit to your business? So again, really try and make sure you understand that marketing should not be about one place. It should be, where's the best place that I can start? Where are the best complementary places that I can be? And that's going to determine, or that's going to depend on, number one, your budget, and number two, your audience. Where are they hanging out? Where are they most receptive to you? So again, I will say display ads can work. However, I would not ever recommend that as a starting point, because the goal when you first get started is to establish a relationship with your audience. You are a local business, most likely. Even if you're not, even if you're an online business that wants to generate leads, you want to have a relationship with the people you're serving or your prospects. Having a really strong brand, really educational content, that's what sets you apart from other businesses who do exactly what you do. If you are just a logo and a couple of words on a display ad, that is really not establishing a relationship, but that can be great additional impressions for you to increase that frequency. You can also do things like native advertising. This could be maybe with a TV station or a big website where it's essentially an advertorial that they write on their site and they're going to promote it. To be honest, I love content marketing, but I feel like you can get just as much, if not more, bang for your buck utilizing your own content marketing strategies, paying money to get it out there to the public rather than relying on something with a third party. I mean, if you're a business coach or something like that and you want to pay to be in Forbes, okay, go for it. Like, that's probably going to help you, not necessarily just for the actual engagement on that article, but simply to say that you were in Forbes. So if that's something you want to do, go for it. But again, not the most financially smart investment, especially when you're just getting started with this. You could pay, I've known, even just TV stations that charge $5,000 just to have one native content article. And yeah, they're going to put some money into investing that. But guess what? You can do the same thing. And instead of sending someone to their site, you're sending it to your own site. Then you can actually generate those leads on demand. So be very weary about some of these types of advertising. And I'm always here. If you guys have questions, I'm happy to kind of give you my 2 cents. Really quickly, I have worked for local businesses. If you guys don't, kind of know my backstory, I've worked with local businesses for the last 8 years, and we have done a lot of different advertising platforms, a lot of different styles, and I've essentially tested everything that I'm going to talk to you about. And just because my experience was one thing, although I will say when we test something, we don't test it for a couple of weeks. We test it for several months, and we also give it enough budget to really see if it's going to work. You could have a different experience. So I'm never going to tell you not to do something just because I didn't like it or I didn't see the results I was looking for, but I will give you the pros and the cons, the good and the bad. There is also something called OTT, which is over the top, and that is essentially TV, but it's through streaming. And while that sounds really cool, and it is cool, it's still in the very early stages. You cannot run ads on Netflix. You really aren't going to be able to run ads on Hulu. You will see ads, but they are typically only large national brands. You will never see a local business advertising on Hulu because that inventory gets bought up so quickly by these big brands. They don't need local businesses to make the revenue they're looking for. So I would say it's something to keep in mind, but right now the CPM, or cost per thousand, which means how much does it cost me to reach 1,000 people, it's very high, so I would not start there. Again, can be a great complement to what you're doing later on, but not a place that I would recommend starting. Email marketing. This is a fabulous form of marketing, but you do need a way to grow your email list if you're going to do that, which is something that Facebook and Instagram ads can do for you. Webinars, that's another really good form of marketing that most local businesses never consider. However, again, we would use Facebook and Instagram ads to drive those registrations. Then you have something like Google Ads, which is paid search or pay per click. This can work better for some types of local businesses than others. You might see if you're in a highly competitive field in a large local market, it might be very expensive for you to do this. And while that does not mean that you shouldn't do it, it means that everything on your back end has to be set up perfectly and optimized perfectly in order to actually generate real results. Just because someone clicks on your link does not mean they will take the next step. So if you're not ready for that, you will lose a lot of money. You also have to really understand the setup and do the research and actually be able to write a great search ad. So again, that can be an awesome option, but there are several things you need to consider before diving in with that. Another thing I like to talk about with search engine marketing is local search. This is something that most local businesses are not yet focusing on, but is something we offer our clients, and it can get you an enormous return for one of the lowest investments of anything that we offer. And essentially this is the Google My Business search results, or Google Maps, or Google Local. There's kind of a couple of different names, but it all stems from your Google My Business page. This is where essentially you would be trying to rank in those top 3 results. So Google's only showing these things to people when they have a high intent search term and they know they're looking for a local business. So this is an amazing way to showcase that you are a local business or service provider, that they can very easily go to your website. We can actually create microsites within a Google My Business page that can help out a lot. And also they can call you very easily. A few things to consider with that is you want to have call tracking. We can do really great analytics for that, but you want to make sure you actually know if these people are converting at the end of the day. Again, you don't have to have any ad spend to make that happen. So essentially, you're either spending the time to do this yourself, or you're paying someone to spend their time to do it for you. So very much a lower investment, but an awesome, awesome place to be for local businesses right now. I offer this as a complement to Facebook and Instagram ads. If I were to choose two things for you, I would say those are the two I would select right now. And then finally, YouTube ads. YouTube ads is another great way to get your message out there. It is only going to work if you really understand video marketing, number one, if you have a great video ad or video ads, if you have the right landing pages that are designed to optimize, and if you really have that backend set up correctly. So those are a quick overview of some of the most popular forms of advertising. And again, for you, I would probably say, without knowing all the details of your business, that if you could implement great Facebook and Instagram ad campaigns combined with a really strong Google My Business or Google Local strategy, you're going to see the best results. And those results are going to allow you to make more money. And then you can invest in these other things should you choose to. Facebook and Google are the two largest media providers in the world, so it only makes sense that you would want to be in those places. Okay, so now we'll talk a little bit about budgeting. Budgeting is something that most people have a really hard time wrapping their head around. I already discussed what you can expect to budget of your overall revenue per year for marketing, but when you really come down to Facebook and Instagram ads, how are you supposed to choose that budget? So I actually spent quite a bit of time coming up with this really awesome spreadsheet that allows me to plug in a potential monthly budget, and it's going to break things down based on the 3 ad levels that we are about to talk about, and really gives you a good idea of, is this budget going to be enough for my business? So a few things you want to consider, okay? There are 3 different types of ads that you should be running: branding and awareness, conversion focused, and retargeting. Okay, 20% of your budget should go to those branding, awareness, and education ads. 60% should go to conversions, and 20% for retargeting. Then you have this separate formula that is based on traffic temperatures. And if you're not familiar with that, you've got cold, warm, and hot, just like a faucet, okay? Cold are people that don't know you. Warm are people that do know you or have engaged with you. And hot is going to be a past customer or someone who has heavily engaged, like they've already, registered as a lead. So that's a 60% cold, 30% warm, 10% hot formula. In order to overlay both of these, you can imagine it can get kind of complicated. So that's kind of why I developed this spreadsheet. This is something that my students have access to and that we develop for all of our agency clients. But essentially, you want to make sure that the money you're spending per day is enough to generate at least 1 lead for your business, okay? That needs to be really with your conversion ads. So there is no one answer for you on this. Most of the time, I recommend not spending less than $1,500 a month. And that is mainly because you are going to want to do testing in the beginning. Okay, testing is a very important piece of this process. And if you're not testing, then you're likely prolonging the agony, I guess you could say. You're not going to see what's not working and what is working. The goal should be to find out as quickly as possible what's not working so you can stop doing those things and focus on what is actually producing results, and then refining and optimizing those types of ads. So again, there is no one size fits all, but you need to understand what is an appropriate cost per lead for your business and also for your specific products and services. All of those different things are going to be a little bit different. Right before I got on this call, I was talking to a guy who does marketing for an HVAC company, and they do tune-ups, they do air duct cleaning, and they also do full system replacement. As you can imagine, full system replacement is going to be thousands of dollars. An air duct cleaning is typically less than $1,000. A cost per lead for an air duct cleaning is obviously going to be less if you're doing the right type of advertising than a full system replacement. So understanding what's typical for your market, like the actual city that you're in, what's typical for your industry, and then what you could expect for those different products and services. You may have no idea what that is, and that's why it's important to get in there and test. If you've done any advertising in the past, try and use those things as a starting point. If you can work with somebody who has experience doing this type of advertising, they may have a really great recommendation on what exactly you should be looking for in terms of cost per lead. One of my clients is a high-end interior designer in Los Angeles. Well, in Los Angeles, number one, there's a lot of people who have more money. Okay, so that means that there's likely a lot more competition on social media for this same exact audience, for their attention. If you can imagine, it's mainly like a higher end mom. You know, she's going to Soul Cycle and going to smoothie bars and this different type of person who's spending a lot of disposable income. And it's also a really high ticket service. So you have to take those things into account and say, okay, what is an appropriate cost per lead? And essentially that starts with you, your business, and what your margins are. So we actually give students and clients like a formula to determine what's the maximum you can spend on a lead. And really, we're just trying to work backwards from there. We just don't ever want to go over that number. Essentially, it's always much less than that number, but at least it gives you an idea of, okay, as long as I stay under this number, we should make money if we get results. And that's really what you want to understand at the end of the day. All right, so back end setup. This is pretty extensive, I'm going to be honest. Okay, in your 5-day challenge checklist guide that I sent all of you, and that's also linked in the comments of this video, you're going to see a page that says first things first. Okay, this is a checklist of all of the different things that you want to have set up and set up correctly before diving in to social media ads or Facebook and Instagram advertising. Okay, I'm going to read off a few of these things, and most of these things have a checklist of their own that accompanies them, but this is really just giving you an idea of what you need to have before you get started. So you want to decide on your goal, research your audience, develop your customer avatars, make sure your Facebook pixel is installed correctly. You want to map out your funnel, design and build your funnel, decide on if you're going to be utilizing a chatbot, which I highly recommend, and we'll talk more about this later. Then you want to design and build your chatbot. You need to set up your custom conversions and your events on your Facebook pixel. You want to set up your email follow-up sequences. You need to coordinate your lead follow-up process. You need to create all your integrations between your ads, funnels, and email. You need to create a content plan and then develop several pieces of content that you can use to start testing with. You need to make sure your billing is set up correctly on Facebook. If your billing expires, your ads are not going to run, and sometimes it can even shut down your account or have it temporarily disabled. So make sure that it's a card that has a far expiration date and that you're not going to let that exceed the limit. You also need to optimize your Facebook page. So a lot of what we teach starts with a great content strategy, which means people are going to go to your page once you start doing this. And you want to make sure that all of those things are still driving them to sign up as a lead. You also want to create a negative feedback plan. So a lot of businesses don't understand before they start advertising that when you put yourself out there, you're going to get negative comments. You are going to get some haters, and that's totally fine. But you do need to decide, okay, how are we going to deal with this? Will we delete the comments? Will we respond in a funny way? Or simply just address it right there. So figure out exactly who that might go to and how you'll deal with any negative comments that do get posted, because it simply does happen. You also need to know your numbers, like I just discussed, for your cost per lead, cost per click, cost per engagement, and ultimately cost per acquisition. Typically, you're not going to be able to see your cost per acquisition right on the Facebook ads dashboard, because if you are generating leads, your conversions happen offline. So that is something you want to track, but you can't necessarily track it on the dashboard itself. And then you also want to identify your KPIs. So for each of the 3 different types of ad levels, you're going to have some different KPIs that you're focusing on. Cost per lead is typically number 1 for the overall strategy. And then you want to set that budget and divide it by cold, warm, and hot traffic. So again, that is quite a bit that you need to do. And obviously, we're not going to be able to go into all of those things in this challenge. We're going to be showing you how to get a great, solid Facebook and Instagram ad campaign set up. The rest of the days, we're really going to be focusing on the platform itself. But today, again, we really need to lay that foundation of what you need to do prior to ever beginning. I'm actually super excited because helping people with all of this backend setup is something I've been working on, and I'm really excited to tell you guys about it a little bit later. The next thing that we would want to talk about is the 3 levels of this ad strategy. So I think this is the 4th checklist that we'll be going through, and I want to make sure that you understand it before we get to things like offers and targeting, because this is really going to help you put all of this into perspective. So the first level is the education and awareness level. Okay, this is where we're trying to segment the audience based on what types of content they would be interested in. That's going to help you know if they're a good potential fit for your offers. Just because someone is a female between ages of 27 and 50, maybe that's your typical customer, but there are so many factors that will go into if that person is actually looking for what you provide. So things we can do on that level are videos that educate, entertain, or demonstrate. Educational resources to help people decide on, is this a good fit for me? Images that are really going to drive engagement or showcase some type of transformation. You also want to use this level to build social proof, and you can also use it to drive subscriber opportunities. And my favorite way to do that at this level is utilizing a chatbot. So again, we'll go into all of these different things. We're going to create one of these campaigns, but that is level 1, and that's a level most people skip over. And then they wonder why their ads aren't working. And it's because, in marketing, there's a saying that says, you can't ask someone to marry you before you ask them to coffee. You have to think of marketing like human relationships. You need to take it at a pace that's appropriate. If I have never heard of you before, I'm not going to spend, even $50 with you. I could definitely not spend hundreds, and I'm definitely not going to spend thousands. I need to establish some sort of trust, credibility, relationship with your company before I'm ready to take that next step. So this level 1 is really like, let's take you to coffee. Let's ask you out to dinner. We're not going to ask you for money just yet. We want to provide value first. And it's something that's been said a lot in the marketing field, value first, value first. But it's actually true. And most local businesses kind of think this doesn't apply to them. They think, oh, that's only for coaches or educators. And that's absolutely false. Your business has a lot of great education to provide, and you simply need to be putting it out there, and also in a way that fits within the overall strategy. You can put out great content, but if you have no idea how it ties into the rest of your campaigns, you're still not going to see the results that you're looking for. Level number 2, this is the offer level. Okay, this is where you're actually going to be retargeting people that have engaged with those different types of educational pieces or social proof pieces, or just simply things that are designed for engagement. In this type of campaign, your offer obviously matters. That's something we're going to be talking about in depth tomorrow, but you have to understand that this is not the first step, putting that offer, trying to drive that lead right away. You can test putting out offers to cold traffic, but it needs to be an appropriate cold traffic offer. And you cannot expect that your cost per lead for cold traffic is going to be at all in line with what you really should be looking for. It's also going to be less consistent. So I just would never encourage anyone to go straight to cold traffic with their core offer. It's just not going to turn out very well. So a few things that you really want to think about briefly, as we will be covering this tomorrow, are creative packages, packaging your products and services in a unique way. You want to have different copy or creative that overcomes objections, and you want to showcase your work or your process or your product, and you also want to somehow leverage a sense of urgency if that is all a part of the offer. And finally, level 3, this is retargeting, okay? A lot of people will set up really basic retargeting campaigns, but you can get very detailed in your retargeting. If you have multiple products or services that you provide, you should have this 3-level campaign for each one of them. So you might have 6 different retargeting campaigns out there, or different retargeting ads or ad sets. So a few things you can do with retargeting. You can upsell, cross-sell, or provide affirmation. So past customer, a cross-sell or an upsell, that's a great option. Someone who's signed up as a lead already, you don't have to stop there. If they're not sold yet, if it's just a lead, send them testimonials, send them something that's going to make them feel good about the choice that they just made. Then you also want to be unique to those products and services people have engaged with. I'll go back to that HVAC call I had earlier. If someone was really concerned about air quality and reducing allergies, and that was your content that you put out, you don't necessarily need to send them your offer for a complete system replacement. The air duct cleaning and air purifying, that's much more in line with what they were interested in. So make sure that the content and the offer are in tandem. And you also want to acknowledge the previous actions they've taken with you or any uncertainty they may have buying your product or service. So definitely a lot that goes into these different things. Again, that's really what the rest of the 5 days is going to cover, is those 3 ad levels and how to get them set up correctly. And finally, setting your goals and your KPIs for these different levels. Of course, level number 1, as I mentioned, the goal is not to generate leads at this level. If done correctly, you will generate some leads, but it's not going to be an enormous amount, and it's not necessarily going to be at the cost per lead that you're looking for, but that's not the purpose. So you might be looking for how long people watch your video or video views. You could be looking at engagement, like likes, comments, and shares. You could be looking for messenger subscribers. There's a lot of different things that you could look for, or clicks to your blog, something like that. So make sure that those are your focuses for level 1 campaigns. Level 2 and 3, you're essentially going to be looking for either conversions or that cost per lead that you ultimately want to see. So that is all that I have for you today. I actually have an insane amount of content to provide you this week, but I'm trying my best to pare it back to what I feel like you only need to know right now. It actually can be super overwhelming for people. So I want to try and keep these short and sweet. Today, there's actually, quite a bit that I want to educate you on. So this has been about 35 minutes. You can probably expect less than 30 minutes for each day moving forward. And here are your action steps for day 1. Again, I'm going to email these to you later. Make sure you whitelist the email address, alliebloydmedia@gmail.com. That is where these updates are going to be coming from. But number 1, I really want you to set a budget for your entire year of marketing if you haven't already. If you're doing it for next year, base it off projected numbers, okay? You really want to say, okay, obviously I'm in this challenge because I want to do Facebook and Instagram advertising, but is there anything else that I can do that will be a complement? Like I mentioned earlier, Google local optimization is probably the second best place to start. Then you can really try and break down that budgeting and that cost per lead that we discussed. If you already know a cost per lead, kind of work backwards. How much would I need to spend per day on that cost per lead? If it's $30, I'm going to be honest, you probably need to spend 40 or 50 a day, because that is not the only piece of the campaign you need to focus on. So that's a great way to kind of set, okay, what's an actual budget that's not just going to let me start advertising. You want to actually start advertising and get results. That's the whole point. And you may want to spend a little bit more your first or second month so that you can do more testing and you can see what types of results you're generating. And that's going to guide you moving forward. I also want you to take a look at that checklist that I sent you. Okay, the first things first. Really identify, what do I currently have and what do I not have on this list? It's a checklist, so go ahead, print it out, and check those things off. And if it's not a good piece, don't check it, because if your funnel is not good, then it's going to affect so much of your results moving forward. So just because you have it doesn't mean it's right. Really ask yourself, are these things done correctly? Are they done the best that they could be done? Do I still need help with these things? So really identify what your starting point is. You need to be honest with yourself as we go through these things, and don't just think that we can set up a few quick ads on Facebook and that you can make $1 million. It's absolutely possible. But it's not going to happen if you don't have the budget, if you don't have the strategy, and you're not willing to give it some time to really optimize. And then finally, really just kind of understand, like, what are my goals? Am I trying to just build brand awareness? Like, am I already doing well and I kind of want to lay this foundation for when I'm ready to really start generating leads? Or am I ready today to drive leads hardcore? Do I want to build my email list? Do we have a great email marketing strategy, but just not enough people in the list to make it worthwhile? So ask yourself those questions. Again, we'll be going over a lot more of the goals and KPIs as we go through this, but that essentially is your homework for the day. Please do it. You joined this challenge because you needed help. And without taking these steps that I'm encouraging you to take, you're not going to be any farther along by the time this challenge is over than you were when you started. So taking imperfect action is what this is all about. You may not have it all together. You may not have all the answers, but by doing these steps, you are going to see, okay, where am I lacking? Where am I doing well? Where do I have the opportunity to grow? And what are my next steps to get there? So again, thank you so much for tuning in live or on the replay for day one. Go ahead and do #live if you were on this live video with me, #replay for the replay. And any additional questions you have, feel free to post in the comments or post on the group, and I will do my best to answer every single one of them. So thanks again, and I look forward to going through the rest of this challenge with you. Thanks, guys.